Good evening, fellow heretics. Welcome to tonight's show. I'm your host, Captain Dadpool.
And I'm Natty Nat.
And you are watching Nerds and Heresy.
Hold on to your butts.
Also, I apologize for the lack of energy. I still feel like hot garbage.
Oh.
But today we have Andrew Seidel with us. Holy
Hello,
shit.
everybody.
What an honor. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fantastic. I'm excited because you have Samuel L. Jackson from Jurassic Park launching your show, and that's like
we had to have something from Jurassic Park. We had to because we both love
Actually,
that movie.
I say that to my kids all the time in the car when I'm like
On
ready
your
to
butts.
really hammer. Yeah.
I paid someone to make that for me. I was like, hey, I don't know what I even want. Just make something you think will be badass, and I'll give you money. And he did, and that's what he came up with. I was like,
It is.
chef's kiss.
Yeah, that's badass. I'm a fan.
So for those who live under a rock, Andrew, you want to tell everybody who you are and where they can find you, what you've done with your life?
Sure. So I'm Andrew Seidel. I'm a constitutional attorney, civil rights attorney. I've dedicated my career to standing up to religious bullies, defending the separation of state and church, trying to defend true religious freedom, not this redefined, weaponized religious freedom that you hear about today. Mm-hmm. I work at the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which is a fantastic nonprofit. If you've never heard of it, we have two purposes. We work to educate the public about what it is to be a non-believer in the United States and to keep state and church separate. So we work to educate and to separate. That's FFRF.org. Please go join up. We need support now more than ever. We are busy fighting Christian nationalism. I've written a couple books. One of them you might have heard of, The Founding Myth, Why Christian Nationalism is Un-American. Not because it's like a good book or anything, but because it was burned by a Tennessee crazy mega preacher named Greg Locke.
Which makes it amazing.
With a blowtorch. Yes. So that happened. It just came out in paperback. It's got a brand new epilogue all about the January 6th insurrection. And yeah, I mean that's my short spiel. I got a website. I'm all over the social media at Andrew L. Seidel on all the places, SEIDEL, TikTok, Twitter. I'm new to TikTok. I love it. That's where I met Captain Dadpool. And yeah, just enjoying life and a tasty beverage right now, hanging out with some cool people.
All right. Shit, what was I gonna say?
I don't know. I can't read your mind.
I am the TikTok lawyer for people asking about comments. That is me.
You're just a TikTok lawyer.
Yeah.
Which you'd think, like, if you have the spare time to make TikTok videos, you must be actually pretty good at your job because, you know, you can set your own rates and make your own schedule at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Well, I mean, a huge part of what I do, too, is public education. I work to explain to people these really kind of abstract concepts and principles that are so foundational to our society and our government and our constitution, and really bring them home to you and how they affect your everyday life, and work on explaining those in a way that is not abstract and, you know, we're just defending the Constitution. No, I'm defending your rights, and really kind of spend a lot of time talking to people about how these things affect them. It's one of the cool things about working at a nonprofit. I'm not just litigating these cases in court every day, which is super fun and I'll never stop loving, but also getting to go out on the road and talk to people about what these things mean.
Oh, nice. For 20 coin, I will notice the shit out of you. Thank you.
every time, man. Just every time.
So my question I had for you is about you writing your book. You wrote it during probably one of the most rapid-paced political climates in our nation's history. Were there any points where you were writing and then something happened, like Trump would tweet some shit and you were just like, fuck, I gotta go back and edit that page or add this in there? Did you have any moments like that?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I had a lot like that, actually. I really did. I mean, so the founding myth, why Christian nationalism is un-American, it actually took really beginning to end. So when I first started working on it to when it was published was about 10 years. And I initially didn't think it was going to be a book. I set out to write a law review article. Back when I was in law school, my second stint in law school, I got 2 different law degrees, not a flex, just trying to explain. I didn't have to go to remedial law school. Anyway, I was reading this case about the 10 Commandments, and one of the Supreme Court justices said, well, the 10 Commandments are obviously the foundation of American law. And I'm like, I've read the 10 Commandments and I've read the Bible, and that is not true. So my plan was, I'm just going to write a law review that compares the 10 Commandments to the 10 Amendments to the Bill of Rights.
Right.
Shortly after I graduated, I ended up with the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and I started having these arguments for a living. And the more I dove into this and the more I researched it and the more I talked to people around the country about this, the more clear it became to me how huge of a problem this was. And it wasn't just we had to take on this piece of disinformation. We had to take on the entire identity that has been built around all of this disinformation that America is founded as a Christian nation, that we're based on Judeo-Christian principles, that we've strayed from that foundation, right? That's Christian nationalism. So it became pretty clear to me early on that I had to rewrite, or that the law review was not going to be enough. I had to go bigger. And so I broke the book down into kind of 4 basic parts. Talking about sort of our pre-constitutional history, the Declaration of Independence. Did the Puritans and Pilgrims really come here seeking religious freedom, or is that kind of twisting things? It is kind of twisting things. Then I get into some of the more constitutional stuff. That I get into the religion of the founding fathers, whether or not that matters. Then I have my whole section on the Ten Commandments. And then I get into things like In God We Trust, One Nation Under God, and all that. But all of that is framed within this larger discussion of Christian nationalism and how it really is destroying the modern political landscape and has really marched us pretty damn far down the road to fascism. So yes, every single day, new things were happening. New data was coming out. We were learning more about Christian nationalism, and I was furiously rewriting things and adding things right up until the end. And then, like 18 months after the book is published, Christian nationalists, the subtitle is "Why Christian Nationalism is Un-American."
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it's not often that you write a subject. Or write a book about a subject, and then the subject runs out to prove you right. But, a year ago, Christian nationalists attacked American democracy, and they attempted to overthrow and overturn the results of a free and fair election, and they proved beyond all doubt that Christian nationalism really is un-American. So, the pace of change has been amazing. And yeah, I've been doing a lot of rewriting of the book up until the time. And then when it came time to do the paperback after January 6th, my publisher said, okay, you can have 3,000 words for the epilogue, for the new epilogue on January 6th.
That's a one.
Yeah, I wrote 40,000 without even trying. So I mean, there's just so much there. It's not, it's just such a target-rich environment.
I'm in the Pennsylvania National Guard, and we got
oh yeah, you're in the heart of it.
After it was like the 7th or 8th or something. So we got like a 48-hour notice. Like in 48 hours, we're gonna be there. So get your shit, get here, and we're gonna. Then we get there, and it was a fucking madhouse because we get there, we get briefed by the Capital City Police, like the guys that were fucking there are telling us. This was done by white supremacist groups, white nationalist groups. We know who they are. We have their social media accounts, blah, 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 blah. And still had guys in my unit who were like, this is Antifa. I'm like, are they lying to you? Like, did the Capitol Police just lie to all of us about that? Where's the logic? Send help. I'll get it.
I mean, and Pennsylvania is a hotbed for it. I mean, you got Doug Mastriano, who's been just a terrible influence. I mean, one of the leading Christian nationalist politicians, certainly in statewide politics, shooting for higher office. And that day, I don't want to suggest that Christian nationalism was the only thing that motivated the attack that day. There certainly were other drivers of the attack, and white nationalism was a big one of them. There was a distinct QAnon flavor to the insurrection. I mean, you had
nice helping.
not a nice flavor.
No, it was a good helping.
And
sweet baby rays on there.
I mean, you had militia groups. You had the Second Amendment fans, we'll say, and the thing though, well, so hopefully everybody remembers the New Yorker video that came out. It was about a month, maybe 2 months after the insurrection. That video was shot by a war correspondent named Luke Mogelson, who's he's typically over in Afghanistan and Iraq. And he happened to be in DC and went into the Capitol and is filming with these insurrectionists. And I interviewed him for this other project that I'm working on. And we talked for a really long time. And that was one of the things that we kept coming back to was the Christian nationalism. And the more we talked, he said, I was shocked, this is me paraphrasing him now, by how much Christianity was there that day. I wasn't expecting it. But it was actually the thing that tied it all together. The white nationalism, the QAnon, the militia groups. It was the Christian nationalism that tied it all together. And to me, that's just that I mean, if you saw that day and you paid attention to the imagery and the rhetoric in the lead up, I mean, prayer rallies, the Jericho marches, things like that. I'd be more than happy to get into that if that's the road you want to go down for this conversation. But it was very clear that this was one of the primary drivers of the day. And that's because Christian nationalism provides this really powerful permission structure.
Yeah.
And if you are seeking to attack our government and overturn a free and fair election, you need a damn good reason to do that. Not saying that they were right to believe it, but they had to tell themselves something.
Yeah.
And if you're telling yourself, yeah, exactly. They have to justify it to themselves morally, for one thing. But if you're telling yourself you are on God's side, you are trying to defend God's country, God's chosen candidate, you're going to return our country to the roots that it was founded on, God, right? That is the most powerful permission structure that exists out there. It's as old as time, right?
Yeah.
You're fighting for God. And so to me, it makes, of course, I think it's just obvious that it was one of the more powerful drivers that day. And there's going to be a big report coming out soon that'll I think, show that pretty unequivocally.
Oh, that's
I'll
excellent.
be very interested to read that. One thing that the Capitol, one of the reasons that we were there is because they were planning more attacks. Like they were on the Parler app and they were like reading, they were planning another one for the 20th. They were planning one for like the 17th, or I can't remember.
Yeah.
But they had different ones that they were planning.
March 26th.
Once we got there and once they put up the fence around the White House and everything, just everything, the tone in the chat groups that they were part of totally changed. And people were pretending to be like Trump officials. They're like, okay, Trump is now like I read this shit. Trump is now telling us to stand down. He's going to make his move and we don't need to get involved now. Like, oh, okay, now that the military shows up.
I mean, that's why they left that day. So for this project that I've been working on, I've not just been.
It got dark.
No, I mean the QAnon. There's video of the QAnon shaman. The horn. He beat the guy who bedazzled himself in face paint and fur and horns. Yeah. There's video of him on the steps of the guy. He walked out completely unmolested or stopped by any authority, and was interviewed and said, "We were told to fucking leave by Trump. Trump told us to leave. We won the day." And then he has the implicit threat that you're talking about, where he says they know that we can do this, and if they try this shit again, we're coming back.
Yep.
I mean, they were clear about it. And so, yeah.
I got a super chat here real quick. Thanks, Greater Handle. Given the likelihood that the right will retake the House and Senate in the midterms, are we seeing the same problem in 2024, given your educated proximity to this?
Oh, I mean, yeah, like, so I don't mean, I don't think I've suggested, I hope not, that Christian nationalism is over and done with because January 6th is over and done with. We are in serious trouble right now. I mean, first of all, I'm looking for my phone. If you watch what happened that day, we were so close to having that go a very different direction. That day was very close to going very, very badly. I think Mitt Romney was maybe 12 or 13 seconds away from being torn limb from limb.
Yeah, he was like walking towards the crowd, and a police officer like directed him the other way or something, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
people
were pissed at him.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you have a guy carrying a Christian flag carried it onto the floor of the Senate. They said a prayer to Jesus on the floor of the Senate. They prayed to return our country to its Christian roots on the floor of the Senate. They rifled through senators' desks on the floor of the Senate. And we were so close to the day going differently. And the crazy thing about it is that if they hadn't been, there was a performative aspect to the entire thing, right? I mean, you have this QAnon shaman dressed up, cosplaying.
Massive theater everywhere.
Massive
they had the gallows.
Theater. They had the gallows.
And
they filmed everything, right?
Yeah.
They every single person there had their phone up, and they were filming
all the evidence for us.
But think about the flip side of that too, Rick, because if they hadn't done that, they were fighting with one hand tied behind their back, basically.
Yeah.
And if next time they don't do that and they put their phones down and use both their hands, I mean, that day goes differently. If half of them put their phones down and stop filming, that day goes differently.
There's a lot of speculation that if these nationalists had been of a different racial ethnicity, that they would have never made it into the Capitol to begin with.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, you don't even have to speculate.
No.
Right? Like Black Lives Matter protesters were at the Capitol that summer.
Yep.
And
they were gassed.
They neither received nor expected the kind of leniency that we saw with those protests.
Right.
Trump himself warned, when the looting starts, the shooting starts, which is a phrase that has a very long and racist history.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump had those peaceful protesters gassed, beaten, and brutalized with rubber bullets so that he could walk to a church.
Yeah, that was fucked up.
And pose with a Bible. And the point of that malignant stroll was to show that we are a Bible-believing, Bible-beating Christian nation. Right? And if you don't agree with that, you get beaten and you get gassed. And that scene harkens back to some of our most shameful history. And so, I mean, just to be clear, when I'm speaking of Christian nationalism, really we're talking about white Christian nationalism.
Yeah.
And I saw somebody in the chat mention, you shouldn't be attacking Christians. That's a terrible tactic. One, speaking the truth is never a terrible tactic. Two, Christian nationalists are not the same as Christians. They are Christian. They are very much Christian. I'll die on that hill. But it's not attacking every Christian. Yeah. I mean, I have some very dear friends and colleagues that belong to a group called Christians Against Christian Nationalists that are just as much against the fascist tendencies of Christian nationalism as I am, even though they also call themselves a Christian. So I
have Christian friends. We've had Christians come on the show before.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
So just to be clear, whoever said that, I think it was Doug, somebody, you're the one conflating them, not
Trump is the lesser of two evils between Hillary. He is not a believer. Great.
Correct. Oh yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, Doug Listy. Oh boy, yeah. You're
lots to
unpack there. Now the troll has gotten his attention.
Yeah,
that's all right. We can
move on.
Keep going.
Here, let's cheers to we the people.
Yes, let's.
Right,
cheers.
let's do that.
Apparently, with my entirely glass of vodka. gonna need a refill soon.
Bacardi Black for me tonight.
I'm doing my usual. This is my go-to. Green Spot Irish whiskey is like my
Yum.
all-time fave. Yeah, that's
Ooh.
I don't like whiskey.
Yeah, he doesn't do whiskey.
I have a horror story. The very first time I ever got drunk was when I was a teenager, and it was off a whole bottle of Canadian whiskey, and I woke up in a puddle of my own vomit. And ever since then, I can't. The smell of it.
Yeah. No, your body remembers that. That's evolution at work there. It's like, nope,
Right?
that's a poison, and I will never put it in me again. Yeah.
Yep, I can't do
Why
it.
I hate peppermint. I will never,
Although
ever,
I
ever be
bought
able to have
a
peppermint
bottle
schnapps
of
ever again.
I bought a bottle of Johnny Walker Black for Hitchens.
For
10
Hitchens,
year
sure. Yeah.
anniversary, and I finished that, no problem. I didn't really enjoy it, but I made it through it.
Yeah, try some Irish whiskey. It's like it's not as peaty or as smoky. It's a little smoother, I think.
That's
if you're, yeah.
I'm gonna try
I
that.
don't know. I personally, I'm not a big fan of barrel aged whiskeys. Like I like it right off the spigot. So when I worked at the
Get under the barrel.
distillery, it was excellent. Yeah, when I worked at the distillery, it was great because it's just like I don't know. I like that sharpness that comes with it.
Yeah,
You'll get all that smoky flavor. You just don't have a woody aftertaste. But that was just me. That's just I'm a weirdo. You know.
No, to each his own. Yeah, I mean my version of Canadian whiskey is Southern Comfort, which is actually gross anyway.
I like SoCo.
But yeah, that's the thing that I can't even smell, or I'm no, get it away.
Rum is for the morning.
Rum is for the mornings.
And
Wednesday morning.
to be clear, I realized that Dragons was making fun of me because he thinks I'm drinking vodka. I'm not. I'm not drinking vodka.
It's
It is a
tequila,
clear.
Dragons. Get it right.
I mean, it should be tequila. I wish it was tequila.
tell.
That'd be lovely.
So you mentioned Hitchens.
This is mead. I know it doesn't look like yellow, but there is some in there. It's really good.
I did mention
You did mention Hitchens.
You know, the author of green screen. Fuck.
Wow, that
Great.
is crazy.
You got one of these?
I got one of
Nobody
those.
gets some shit like this.
I love how his face just shrinks
This is-
and then comes back.
That's
as it
amazing,
moves
yeah.
across.
One of a kind.
What?
Hologram technology. It's on hologram back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one of those signed by the man himself.
You got it signed?
I did, yeah. This was back in, it must have been 2010, I think, 2009 or 2010. I was in Colorado at the time. I was getting my second law degree, and he was supposed to come speak, and I had been storing up first editions waiting for this. You know, I had tickets and all that, and it was he announced the cancer and had to cancel the event.
Oh, did he?
And I tracked down his New York address and wrote a couple page letter to him and packed the books up with a return FedEx thing. And I said, I'm never going to see these again. Sent it off and just promptly forgot about it because I was so sure that I was never going to get the books back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not something that would happen. You know, kind of, it was a very personal letter. And I think I wrote about this actually on, I used to write on a Medium channel, you know, the Medium website for a while. I'm pretty sure, but I'll see if I can find it in a minute. And I think it was 6 or 7 months later, after I had fully forgotten about it, I got package. I'd so much forgotten about it that I didn't recognize what the package was when it came back. But yeah, all of them signed for Andrew Seidel. Christopher Hitchens got a very nice note also back from him. Totally, obviously did not have to do that. Was sick, and it turned out later, obviously dying. But yeah, so I have three. I have God Is Not Great, Portable, Atheist, and then he wrote an introduction to an Orwell. It's a dual Orwell. It's 1984 and Animal Farm. And he wrote an introduction. I'm sure you know he wrote a biography of Orwell as well. Anyway, I had him sign that because I'm a huge Orwell fan too. So yeah,
Wow.
3
I
signed.
am too.
Hitch
I
books, yeah.
may or may not have at one point in time found that there was a library closing and they were getting rid of books and they had a box of Orwell. It was all 1984, but I bought the whole box of them. And anytime my friend says, anytime I have someone I know is like, oh, I've never read 1984, I will literally whip it out and just hand them a copy.
That's awesome.
So like I'm down to 4 copies left.
That's fantastic.
So I'm just like, oh, here, have one.
We're not going to ban you, Douglas. We
Douglas,
appreciate
you're
that.
allowed to say what you want. That's okay. If it becomes harassment, that's when you get booted.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Douglas is not
We're
technically
just saying
trolling. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
okay.
It's just I just disagree with him. That's more than I love when people disagree with me.
You're a lawyer. You're supposed to like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, agreement is boring, right? Okay, I'm gonna stick
Yeah.
this in the chat because I can't figure out how to comment. But that's I wrote about this the little Hitchens thing and got some photos in there if anybody.
I think for us to post in the chat, you have to actually go to like
Oh,
the
okay,
YouTube.
cool.
But if you post in a private chat, maybe
Yeah.
okay.
I threw it up there for y'all. Anyway, we can figure it out.
No, it's cool. We'll do something with it later. Please don't ban me. Sorry, I just think that's kind of cute. So
Here we go.
Oh,
Craig
yeah,
wants to know, what are your law degrees in, and how do they differ from each other?
Yeah. So, I mean, a typical law degree is a 3-year degree, and that's your JD, your Juris Doctor. So I got that from Tulane University Law School. I was the first class back after Katrina. So it was a very interesting experience. I wanted to go back. I went to Tulane for undergrad, graduated just before Katrina. And that's your typical law degree. That's what almost every lawyer has. If you want to specialize, you can get extra law degrees. There are a couple different options. Sometimes if you want to specialize, you have to get an extra law degree. Like if you want to practice tax law, you have to get an LLM, which is a Master of Legal Letters, something like that in tax law. I have an LLM in environmental law. So after I graduated with my JD, I went to University of Denver, and I was the Eric Blumel International Environmental Law Fellow, where I specialized in international environmental law. I wrote a guidebook on international human rights as it intersected with environmental law. Don't bother looking for it. You can't find it. And there's only like 5.
Why?
Because it was like the most niche thing ever, and it was published through the Environmental Law Clinic where I was the fellow.
I want one.
I don't even have one. I mean, like,
You don't have a PDF or anything?
I have a PDF. I do have a PDF. Yeah.
You want to send that?
Sure, if you want to. It's I don't. Yeah, it's.
I read pretty much anything anyone sends me. Like
It's
eventually I will get around to it.
It's how to do shadow reporting on international instruments. So, like, we have these. We have all these international treaties.
Is there a regulations thing? Just making sure that everything that's
no, it's not regulations. It's more kind of like what I do with FFRF, where it's more like the law in more of the public realm. So we have, so for instance, there's an international convention that we have on torture, against torture, and you as an activist or an activist group or an interest group could write something called a shadow report. So when countries sign on to international treaties, they are tasked with self-reporting how they are complying with that treaty. You can imagine that they tend to whitewash their performance a little bit.
Right, so this kind of applies to what was happening in Portland, and to an extent how Americans have been abusing their police rights.
Well, America tends not to sign on to international treaties, so we tend not to self-report anyway. But so what interest groups do is they write their own shadow reports to see how, and they report on how the country is complying with these international treaties.
That's intriguing.
So like the Iran nuclear deal.
So that's more, yes, that's technically a treaty. So I'm talking more about these like broad international conventions that are administered by the UN. Economic, civil, political rights. They're like those really big treaties on women and the children, those kind of things. Like the huge ones where you're talking like 150 countries sign on. This is one of the really frustrating things. International law is so fascinating and so important, especially in when you're, for instance, trying to halt a global climate crisis.
I was say the Paris Climate Accord probably applies to this a little bit, right?
You mean the thing that we refused to sign that one time? Yeah, no.
Well, we signed it. We just also had an asshole yank us out of it. But the point being, it's really important, but it's toothless in the sense that it's not enforceable. You can't take these cases to court and sue the way you can here in the States and get the government to do something, have a court order the government to do something. There's no real there's a lack of enforcement mechanisms when it comes to international law. So you look for other ways to kind of talk about
true.
Yeah. So
I deal in here with that a lot in geology and archaeology specifically.
I mean, with Hobby Lobby stealing artifacts from all over the world. Now, now that we've lost half our audience,
you brought it up. I wasn't going to say
recently had
anything.
Dr. Kip Davis on, and he was part of that project. He spilled some beans for us.
Oh, cool.
Just a few.
Just a few.
Yeah, Hobby Lobby tried to institute a Bible class in the Mustang Public Schools in Oklahoma.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, I know about this. I live near them.
Yeah, so I was the one who stopped that with the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Yep, really? I was the lawyer on that. I was ground level. I got the records. I got the curriculum. I got the book. I wrote all the letters. Brought in the ACLU. Brought in Americans United for Separation of State and Church.
Oh my God!
Found out that
That's epic.
Hobby Lobby was having the school board violate open meetings laws and meet secretly at Hobby Lobby headquarters, so that none of the rest of the citizens could go and watch what the school board was doing with their curriculum.
Hi, Rich.
Yeah, and we killed it.
No, that is amazing. I didn't know that. I should have known that was you. I was more intrigued about the fact that I was watching it happen through the eyes of my mother, who is a now retired teacher / professor.
Oh, wow.
And she's very adamant on keeping up with the rights of students and the rights of teachers, and not so much the rights of what you learn. She likes keeping those freedoms open. And I mean, she is on top of it all the time. The problem is she's not very technologically savvy. So a lot of times she's like, "Did you know this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I heard about it 3 days ago." She's like, "How?"
Twitter, TikTok, all that.
It's entertaining. It's entertaining to she's the one that sends me. So she has the Texas banned books list, and she keeps getting it updated every time that someone's going to ban a book or something. I
gotta say, I'm disappointed that the founding myth has not made it on that list yet. I feel like it's been burned by a preacher. I feel like it really ought to be on there.
So the thing is, she's had me. I did a conference call with her and about 60 other teachers across Texas, and some of the teachers have read some of the books and some of them haven't. And there was a lot of there's some LGBTQ stuff on there, but then there were just basic evolutionary discussions and status. And my mom was just like, "You need to sit in on this lecture and just tell them what the book is," because there's a lot of books that were just kind of thrown in there because of the title. I know
you can tell if you read down that list, you can tell that these fuckers just put in a word in a search engine and it's like, "Yep, ban that one, ban that." They don't know what the fuck's in those books.
No,
100% correct.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Yeah, 100% correct. I want to say hi to Rich and Jesse and Correa too. Hi, everybody. I'm recognizing names. I love this.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
it's crazy, right?
So I'm not even going to lie to you. I did not realize that I was following you on TikTok until I checked on TikTok this morning. I was like, I should probably be following Andrew. And I looked, and apparently I've been following you for 3 months.
No, that's not possible. That's not possible. I've only been on there for... I don't even know if it's been a month now. No, it must be.
Is it not a month? It was
it's probably a month and change now. Yeah.
It had to have been around Christmas because.
Yeah, I did. Yes, I did. I don't know. It was. Cap helped me out huge. And let's see. It was. Yeah. It was I think it was the second week of December. I think.
Was it? Okay. Yeah.
Just kind of on a whim. Yeah.
It feels like it's been 3 months. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
the last 3 months for me has been hell. So it's felt like 6 months.
What is time?
I get very excited when actual experts in various fields join TikTok, because it started off as a kids dancing app and now it's kind of being taken over by adults. But there's still the kids that have built influence and are pushing this bad information. So I
now
try
it's
to correct
combating
that whenever I can. And I saw you pop up there. It's like, fucking get him a following right now, TikTok. God damn it.
Yeah, I ran into one or two of those kids already.
Yeah.
Just one or two? What?
Yeah, just one or two.
Oh, yeah. So Ricky, I didn't tell you this. There's
Oh God.
you know that that one TikTok video I made just discussing dolomite and limestone and like how it looks like the hammer of a rock. Some kid
Not the
just
knife
like
one.
yeah, the one that looks like a knife, but it's not
Yeah.
a knife. Yeah. The one I was just going through and this
That ruffled
I
some
had a
feathers.
troll. I had my first like super troll and I had to actually delete him and block him. I was like very, very happy about this. Because
yeah,
he
I'm all
like,
about the
you know
block.
nothing, you know nothing, you know nothing. I was just like, oh my God. It's like, you don't know anything, do you?
Oh, I block with reckless abandon. I got no problems about that.
I like
I'm the
hearing
opposite. I
things.
block almost nobody unless
I
it gets
was that
someone
way
saying
for a
some, like,
very
really
long
awful
time.
shit.
Yeah, I was that way for a very long time. And then I also I don't think TikTok has the equivalent, but Twitter has a mute button.
Yeah, no,
which-
TikTok I think does well.
I don't know if TikTok,
When
but
it's
I
live.
loved that because people would respond and they'd waste all this time responding, and I just had no idea. I couldn't hear them. That was one of my favorite things, like because then I'll let them waste their time. But
I'm sorry, what?
But your followers can still hear that, and then they waste their time responding, and then I do see those, and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go to the blocks. Yeah, I mean, for a long time, I was like, no, I'm gonna do this, and I'll answer everybody. But I mean, there's just, and I do try anybody that has a hint of good faith. More than happy to keep you on board. But if you're clearly bad faith, bye bye. No qualms about that anymore.
One guy who just like for months was just in my comments like every single day saying like the same, and he wasn't really offensive.
Is this the
He was
Johnny
just
Catholic
arguing
guy?
with everybody, saying the same shit over and over again. And I was like, for the sake of your own mental health,
yeah,
I'm gonna block you because you are spending way too much time binging my content and arguing with my followers in the comment. Like, this is for you. Not me.
I do this because I love you. Like God. I kill you because
go get a hobby.
That's funny.
So I want to do you touched on something a little bit earlier that I wanted to discuss. What is it like being a attorney for the Freedom from Religion Foundation? What's a day in the life look like for a job like that?
I mean, the days really vary. I mean, I think it's the coolest job ever. I'm an attorney. I've dedicated my career, my life to defending the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. You kind of don't get better than that. No. I mean, really, you kind of can't get better than that. Not only that, I spend my time standing up to religious bullies. I get to meet and hang out with some of the coolest people out there. It's an amazing job. It's very different than the life a lot of people who I went to law school have. For a number of reasons, not the least of which is like they make a shit ton of money and I'm a nonprofit attorney. But it's so much, it's so rewarding. And I've done everything at the Freedom from Religion Foundation, worked my way up. So when I started every single day, it's handling the day-to-day complaints, the parents who are writing to us and saying, hey, my kid is in first grade and their teacher told them that they had to pray before they walked down to lunch. And I didn't think that was okay. Is that okay? Is there anything you can do to help me about that? And like, yes, we absolutely can help you. We will help you. Here's what we're going to do. And then you just wade into the fray and you stand between this person and this kid and this family and the government. And you are shielding them from the full brunt of the government and telling the government that what it is doing is unacceptable and it has to stop. And, you know, I mean, a lot of times you get blowback and pushback and death threats and really, really awful emails and phone calls and voicemails. But it's because you're standing up for people that can't stand up for themselves. And I mean, to me, there's nothing better that you could do with a legal career than that. And so, you know, I've spent the last decade in that fight, in those trenches, and you know, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I absolutely love it. And then, you know, now I do higher level stuff. I'm doing a ton of litigation. I'm writing briefs for Supreme Court cases. I'm doing a ton of communications work now, messaging, talking to folks about the problems that we face in the secular movement, trying to explain that if you give a shit about religious freedom, you need to care about having a government that is secular, that is divorced from religion, because there's no such thing as the freedom of religion without a government that is free from religion. You know, and so I spend a lot of time doing that. And it's crazy, you know, like my first ever live interview was on Bill O'Reilly's show. Like, and it was just like, hey, can you come on Bill O'Reilly's show tonight? And the co-presidents of FFRF, Dan Barker and Annie Lauria Gaylor, are like, it's your complaint, go do it. So, you know. So yeah.
So I had a
square up with Bill O'Reilly. What was that like?
That's cool.
It was super weird. So I mean, so like, I don't think people realize how a lot of those segments go. So for me, it was remote. So I was in Madison, Wisconsin. Bill O'Reilly's at the New York studio of Fox News, and I have an earpiece just in one ear, and I am just looking into a camera. And so Bill O'Reilly's just like right into your brain, just talking into your brain.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little disconcerting. And it's also, the deck is stacked against you because you can't see him. You can't read body language or anything like that. And if you look away from the camera, you know, if you like stop to think, or if you look at the monitor that they place over here where you actually could see him, you start to look to the viewer at home shifty or shady, or like you don't know what you're talking about, or you're trying, like there's all this extra stuff that comes into doing one of these interviews that's nothing to do with what you're actually saying.
Live TV sucks.
Well, so I mean, like here's an example that's kind of crazy. Like Bill O'Reilly's whole shtick, and really this applies to anybody at Fox News when they're doing an adversarial interview, is they interrupt you as soon as they can. Right? So as soon as you get on your stride and you're trying to say something, they jump in and try to knock you off. And if you are a normal human being raised by other human beings, you've probably been taught not to interrupt and not to speak when other people are speaking. And so if they take advantage of that. And so once they interrupt you, you stop talking, which is an oddly natural reaction. And it's kind of counter. But if you do that on their show, you're dead in the water. You're never going to get to say anything. So I was warned about that by the co-presidents, and they're like, you can't. They're like, you have to keep talking when they interrupt you. And I was like, well, how do you do that? How do you even practice for that? So what I did was I went home for a couple hours before the interview, and I turned on local television. And you know how like all local television has just like the worst commercials ever, you know, like the used car salesman commercials and the waving, blow up thing. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yes. That guy. Exactly. That's the
come on down to Bob's Wacky Wheel.
So I found those commercials, and I turned those commercials up full volume and just tried to say sentences without stopping while those were on.
That's smart.
That's how I practiced for going on Bill O'Reilly's show. Yeah. And then, so that was my Bill O'Reilly experience. It's on I think it's up on my YouTube page somewhere.
Cool.
You can still see it.
That's very cool.
Yeah. They definitely know what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
They have this shit down to a science.
Oh yeah.
The way
I have a question on the statute of limitations when it comes to students that have had religious or I guess religious freedoms taken from them.
Mm-hmm.
So because I am a victim of this, and I was always told just keep your mouth shut and deal with it. So like I had Darwin shirts and shit when I was growing up, and I loved wearing those to school. I just happened to live in the Bible Belt, and I would be told on a daily basis, despite the fact that I am not breaking any code or any dress code or anything, I'd have to go into the office and
turn it inside out.
Yeah, turn it inside out because I was wearing a just the Darwin like origin of evolution. I just origin of the species shirts. I was like the does God exist shirts. And I got in so much trouble for that. And I was like in the principal's office every time I wore the shirt because some kid would come up to me and be like, "That's violating my religious freedom." And I was like,
"It's not.
It's
not. Having you turn it inside out is violating your freedom of speech."
It is.
Yeah.
And my mom wasn't all that. She's just like, "Just put up with it." I was like, "I don't like putting up with it." So I just kept wearing the shirt because eventually I was like, let's see if I can get through a whole day without anyone telling me to turn it inside out.
Well, constitutional law doesn't usually work quite that way. Statutes of limitations are typically for crimes or for like a civil case that you would want to bring. So you'd have to try to figure out a way to bring that as a civil case. And typically the way we bring constitutional law, First Amendment, separation of state and church, freedom of religion kind of cases is through 1983. Through a civil rights statute. It's not the same kind of beast because our goal isn't to get somebody thrown in jail or to recover compensatory damages from some wrongdoer, right? Like if you're in a car accident and somebody hurts you and like you are in a cast and you need crutches or a wheelchair or whatever, and like that costs you money, you need to get that compensated from somebody, right? So there's statutes of limitations on this. It doesn't really work that way in constitutional law. And there's also sort of a bias among courts, though. Now there's a bias among courts against the separation of state and church, especially our Supreme Court, which has just been completely taken over by Christian nationalists and conservatives, and we're screwed in that regard. Anyway, so the answer is there's not really one, but it's also like we wouldn't want to take your case because there's not really anything ongoing that's happening.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only way we can prove this is if I go back to that school and I still like interview every kid to see how many.
But I bet I would not be surprised that if it's still things like that are still happening in your school.
Oh no, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
But that's the reason that the Freedom from Religion Foundation exists. So like, don't be quiet. If that's happening to you or your kid, don't be quiet. You don't have to be out in front, right? Like our role is to stand between you and the school. And we don't tell the school who complained to us. So that's
where I wanted to get with this.
Yeah. So you go to the FFRF website if this is happening to you.
Yeah.
And you fill out, there's a legal page and you fill out report a state church violation. And we keep all that information between us. And we work with you to figure out what it is that you're looking for. And most of the time we can resolve these issues and get this stopped with a letter to the school district, because the law in this case, and I'm talking about you here as a child, was on your side. And so like I would have written a letter to the school district and said, we understand that people are promoting evolution on their clothing in the schools, and that the school is, they probably would have been able to identify you, obviously, because that's like a very individualistic complaint. But when it's something like a cross is put up in the hallway of an elementary school, which happens, they aren't going to be able to figure out who complained. I mean, unless you are also being vocal about it, but we still have a lot of people that stand up. So this is why FFRF exists. I really encourage everybody to go to ffrf.org and join if you're not a member. And if you have something like this happening, definitely go report it through that web form.
Definitely.
So let's get to our super chat, because I totally like sidetracked the conversation.
So good. We got Jim from Meeting Forge, a good friend of mine.
Hi, Jim.
How do you draw the line keeping government free from religion, considering people who are religious and pastors run? Can we truly remove religion from government? Is that reasonable?
Oh yeah, that's a fantastic question. I mean, that goes really to the heart of a lot of what the framers of our Constitution were talking about. And I think the answer is we can do that. And one thing that we need to do is reframe this as a question of power. Right. And it's, can you as an individual use official government power to promote your personal religion? And the answer to that is very clearly no. And think about this in other contexts. We have all kinds of rules that govern public officials, right? You can't use the power of your public office to enrich yourself, right? You can do it, but it's illegal, and there's fraud. There's all kinds of statutes that stop you from doing that. You can't use the power of your public office to sexually harass your interns. You can do it, but it's illegal, right? That we have all kinds of limits on the power of public officials and the way they can use that power. And this is just one additional limit. And it protects the freedom of religion for everybody, right? So in the Federalist Papers, Alexander Hamilton wrote in Federalist 69, he was talking about the president specifically, but you can apply this to the whole government, that it has no particle of spiritual jurisdiction. Right? There's no scintilla of religious power in our government. And so I think if we start talking about this as a limit on power, we are going to get a little bit farther when we have these kinds of discussions and arguments. And the Supreme Court just took a huge case on Friday evening about a coach in the Bremerton School District, a football coach, who was praying after games on the 50-yard line. He would walk out to the 50-yard line. His students, athletes would walk with him. They would all kneel down and pray together on the 50-yard line. Now, never mind that Jesus in his Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 6:5-6, said hypocrites pray in public so that they can be seen. Yeah,
as the Pharisees do.
Yeah, I mean, never mind that he's just like violating Jesus's stricture on the Sermon on the Mount. Not something you would think a Christian would do, but whatever. We'll leave that to the side for a second. He is on the field as a public school official. The only reason he has access to that field and to those students, and the only reason they are following him, is because he is in a position of public power over them. And that's why he can't use that position, that power, to promote his personal religion. If he wants to pray, he can totally do that. I don't have a problem with him praying. Go for it. Like, stand on the sidelines, bow your head, and pray. Go for it, man. It's that he's using and abusing the power of a public office to promote that prayer, to expand it, to extend the reach over the entire community. That's the problem. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the separation of state and church. You don't get to use government power to do that. So pretty basic. So I do think it's absolutely possible, even with religious people in government. And I think the founders designed the system that way. It's just that it's been kind of corrupted over the years.
All right. Got another question from Dr. Kip Davis himself. Is Freedom from Religion Foundation an exclusively U.S. organization? Any parallel organizations in the Great White North, i.e. Canada land?
For the moment, FFRF, in terms of our legal work, our attorneys are only licensed to practice in the United States. We do have members all around the world. So FFRF has, last count, 35,000 plus members in every state, many from Canada, literally all over the world. And our educational goal certainly extends beyond the boundaries of the United States. We had a program called Non-Belief Relief, where we helped rescue Bangladeshi atheist bloggers who were being hunted down and killed. That was a big part of what we were trying to do. Yeah. Yeah, and so I mean, we do some international work, but for the most part, our separation of state and church and our legal work is at the moment exclusively in the United States. Not to say that we're not considering and looking at expanding in the future.
Cool. So similar to the question about praying in school and all that, being in the military, we have the same issue. Every time there is a change of command ceremony or a promotion ceremony, we have a army chaplain, always Christian, come and lead everyone in prayer. You don't have to partake, but you have to go through the motion. Like, you're expected to go through the motions because it's ceremony, it's custom, it's tradition.
And all your commanding officers are there.
And all my commanding officers are there doing it. So if I say, fuck you, no, I'm not going to bow my head and pray, what's going to happen? So what do you think? I don't even know how to.
I know where you're going. I mean, the military is
Yeah.
one of the hardest areas that we have to deal with because the command structure is so rigid and so pressure oriented and so difficult to get around. We've crafted a number of really good cases where we've worked for a long time on really figuring out the law and how we're going to win this case and dotting every T and crossing every I. And then at the last second, all of a sudden our plaintiff is transferred out of the unit that they were in and they would no longer have standing to litigate the case.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh,
So this is kind of...
sneaky.
That's a thing.
It's a thing. The military is really, really hard to deal with when it comes to this. And I think in terms of getting big solutions there, it's going to have to be more of a top-down situation where we're going to have to really get some solutions. I do want to say though that I'm a huge. I hate there are no atheists in foxholes claim. I think it does such a disservice and it's so disingenuous.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, first of all, a quarter of FFRF's members are active duty or retired military.
Really?
A quarter of our members are
That's
active
amazing.
duty or retired military. We have in front of Free Thought Hall here in Madison, Wisconsin, where our headquarters is. We have a granite monument to atheists in foxholes, cut out of the same granite from Mount Rushmore. So Nat, you can come nerd out to that when you come visit Free Thought Hall. I mean, this is one of just the most. Not only disingenuous, but one of the most dishonorable tropes that exist, because it really does dishonor the sacrifice and service of so many of our servicemen and women.
Right.
To me, it's quintessential Christian nationalism in that it claims to be patriotic, but it is fundamentally un-American.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah,
fundamentally anti anything but you. Like it's so.
Yeah. So Jessie, who's in the chat right now, is she's helped me kick some anti-abortion nonsense people out of my chats in the past. She's an ex-Marine and has an atheist license plate with the Marine emblem on it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's kind of a badass. You don't want to
Hell yeah.
Give me one of those.
Jesse, we gonna be friends. Also,
Yeah, right?
I've been reading the chat. Are you in the hospital right now? Because that's what I've been reading.
She also plays football, so that's
Shit.
a possibility. That's a possibility.
Yeah, because she said she was just getting a CAT scan.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Well, at least she's got her priorities straight. She's just in the hospital with a pandemic going on, watching us. So that's.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, her priorities are spot on. I love it.
What better way to spend your time?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna be in a waiting room for
Heresy.
40 hours, yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Lord.
Oh goodness.
She busted her hand. It's her hand, not her leg. Okay. That's
Good.
cool.
So
I mean,
hold
not
on.
good, but-
Verify
Hold on. I saw
badassery.
a
I love it.
chat. Where was that? I got to bring this up. Okay. Eating a bacon and ghost pepper cheese sandwich with a scorpion pepper. So funny story. 2 days ago, we went to a restaurant, Red Robin, that had a burger that meets that exact description. So I read that. I was like, that sounds familiar.
Is it like really ghost pepper? Like I remember watching like a Bobby
Well,
Flay
scorpion
cooking
pepper
show
is
once
way
where
worse
some
than
like it was
ghost
what was the Bobby Flay cooking show where people I don't think it was Iron Chef. He had like another one where people would compete against him. And a guy like cut up a ghost pepper and took like one little square and dropped it in like 5 gallons of boiling water and then used like a couple drops of that boiling water and it was still like too hot for the barbecue sauce or something like that.
It might have been either a Carolina Reaper or a chocolate bootleg.
That's probably a Carolina Reaper because the oils from the Carolina Reaper will stick around for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, when I'm sick, I will just spicify everything that I eat until I am no longer sick.
I did a spicy sauce challenge thing at a store in King of Prussia Mall. There's a spice store, and they had the world's hottest hot sauce.
Is it like the Pepper Palace place?
Yes. I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, we have one of those.
And the sauce was called The End. That's
Yes. Yes.
Cryptic,
I
right?
have
You've heard of
that
this. And it's literally just like ground up Carolina Reaper. And so they give you like a serving sample, put it in your mouth, and you have to hold it for 60 seconds. And and then you win.
Wait, you have to hold it in your mouth for like you can't take a drink of water. This
you
like
can't
No, no, you put it in your mouth and you swallow, but you have to like wait for a solid minute before they'll give you milk or anything.
Okay, I see.
What they don't tell you is the first 60 seconds is by far the easiest.
Yeah.
It gets way worse after that, even if you start drinking milk.
So I found that The End was the one that wasn't as bad as the one previous to it, which I believe was called Hot as Balls or something like that. It was there. They all have great names, but there's a spice. So one's like a hot sauce, and the other one's just a spice. And the hot sauce was worse for me, but I don't know why. It's different peppers, but I don't know. The End was just it was warm. It was warm going down. It was just warm the whole time, but that the second rated one was the one that hit me hard, and I think it might have just been because I like inhaled and it just went out my nose a little, which is worse.
Oh, this one killed me. I in the mall.
Killed you.
It was the end.
Dad.
It was the end. Yeah.
Yeah. We left there. We were walking down the mall, and suddenly I had to throw up. And there's a Walgreens like in the mall. And I ran into the Walgreens to get more milk, and I didn't make it. So I ran behind a register that did not have anybody there. And there's a trash can back there.
Oh no!
So I ran behind this vacant register, pulled out the trash can, and threw up in it.
Hey,
And
look,
then-
man,
and
you
then I
made it
bought
to the
my
trash can. I think that is to be commended. That's
I
impressive.
made it to the trash can.
Yeah.
So at least, yeah, that was no fun. I got a video of it on my Instagrams years ago now, but
No, that's to be commended.
anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, look at this.
Oh.
Yeah, shameless plug
That's exciting.
for anyone who
Shameless
didn't know.
flaunting. Let's do it.
I've been invited to speak at the American Atheist Convention this year.
Hey, congrats.
Thank you.
His imposter syndrome is strong.
It is.
Why?
Yeah.
Wait,
It's
why?
nuts.
No, yeah.
I downloaded TikTok a year and a half ago, and now.
But wait, why is your imposter syndrome? I mean, this is something like. So let me say. I mean, I think one of the huge, big gaps in the secular atheist discussion, and I've been trying to talk about this more over the past year. Seth and Andrews and I had a really good conversation about it a couple months ago. Is that we assume and we try to talk about facts and logic and assume that that is the main thing that is going to convince people, and that is just fundamentally not true. Like
Yeah.
Humans are so bad with their brains. Like, we're not good at thinking.
We care about patterns.
Yeah, we are emotional beings. We are experiential beings, and like that piece of this discussion is so crucial. And I think when we focus only on all these super educated, literate arguments against religion, we're missing the human experience that is keeping so many people from questioning their religion in the first place. So I mean, I definitely I think like that kind of discussion is where we need to be having a lot more. And to me, I think I've made my point. I think we fall down when we focus only on books and cold logical arguments. There's so much more that's out there. There's so many emotional manipulations built into religious systems to keep people in there that we've got to be taking those on as well. anyway, that was a little bit of a diversion. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Well, there's this huge separation between academia, understanding, and a good conversation. Like there's this massive difference. I mean, there are some people that are extremely educated and can have a good conversation, but those are pretty rare. When you come across someone that can just hold a conversation and still be able to teach you throughout a conversation, that's something that is unusual. And that is where I think Ricky excels at. He is able to bring forth a message whilst also giving you some facts, slapping you with a little bit of humor, and kind of just being a down-to-earth guy. And that's something that we just don't get very often in academia. It's why I know it's why he has such a big following, is because people can watch his videos, get entertained by them, and also learn a thing or two. And that's something that I appreciate from him.
No, I mean, you're exactly right, and this is the point that I'm trying to make. You don't have to be an expert in the law or an expert in, you know, writing like Christopher Hitchens or biology like Richard Dawkins or evolutionary, whatever. Like, you can be an expert at being human and speaking about that, and that can be as or more valuable to the secular movement. And I think that is something. I mean, I know Nick Fish really well, president of American Atheists. We chat quite a bit, and I know that's something that he understands at a fundamental level too. So thrilled to hear you're going.
Yeah,
that's what I try to I guess bring is there's a lot of people.
You know your Bible shit too.
Yeah, well, it's what I went to school for. There's a lot of people who have these questions. They're like teetering on the edge of deconstructing or somewhere around those parts, and they have questions. They just don't know how to ask them or where to find the answers to them. And maybe if they try to, they come across atheists who are just kind of come across as assholes. You know, you're dumb. You're not a logical thinker like I am, because we absolutely have that problem.
Absolutely. No. One of
my word. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Nat. That is like my least. I will slap that down anytime I see it.
Oh no, I get this all the time. Is because someone will be like throwing Bible verses at me, and I'm like, no, I'm atheist. And they'll be like, well, you haven't read the Bible. I'm like, no, I haven't fucking read the Bible, and I don't need to read the Bible to be an atheist. Like, I don't need this. Some people do, and I get that, and that's fine. But I trust my science. I have learned, like, my worldview is based around experience, not something said in a book. It's just, I don't get why you need this. But, you know, that's fine. I can get yelled at. It's okay. I can handle it.
Yeah. So yeah, all that to say, I try to, I guess, bridge that gap. You have these questions. I can give you the answer as objectively and calmly as I can. I'm not going to insult you along the way. And then you're free to make the decision that you're going to make. It doesn't matter if you choose to remain a believer. I don't care if you're religious. I don't care if you're a Christian or Muslim, whatever. I really don't. If you believe in God and that it's something that adds value to your life, I think it's needless, but who am I to say what you need for your life? So if you want to believe in that, go for it. My problem is when you start telling me that I also need to believe what you believe, and you're going to start passing legislation that affects my life based off of what you believe. That's where we're going to have a problem.
I'll help you with that one. I mean, but and that, I think that is just an absolutely, I think it's a crucial point, because we can't just treat this as a fully, it's not a question of intellect at all. Like you said, you talked about it as making a decision, and religion is just a set of ideas that people have, right? You don't, when you become an atheist, all of a sudden, you didn't gain 60 IQ points overnight and then become an atheist. All you did was change your mind about a few things. Like, that is what it means. Like, so this claim that you hear that you mentioned, Ricky, at the beginning, like, of this sort of roundabout, that you know, we have atheists out there saying believers are stupid and things like, I cannot stand that, because first of all, it sets religion up on this high hill, suggesting that it is this thing that cannot be defeated, which is fundamentally untrue. And second of all, like it is a truly remarkable intellectual feat to be indoctrinated into a religion and then be able to deconstruct it and leave. I will never take that away from anybody.
Yeah,
it really, really is. And at its most basic level, you are changing your mind about a few ideas. And anybody can change their mind. Anybody can do that. Doesn't detract from how amazing it is, because there are all these self-defense mechanisms that are built into religion and these emotional defense mechanisms, right? Like, we're going to shun you. You're not going to be part of our family. You know, all these different, you're going to go to hell. And we've told you what hell is. And you're, even though you've been an atheist for 20 years, you're still going to have nightmares about hell. But I mean, I really think it is just, it's crucial to just treat religion as just a bad idea and that people can change their minds about. So anyway.
Yeah.
I agree.
I got a quick super chat from Greater Candle again.
From
Sorry.
Super Candle.
Super Candle.
I love it.
Just change your name now. It's a thing. Why do you think apologists have such terrible arguments so easily debunked, but they are so compelling to believers? Oh.
Well, I mean, I think part of that is what we're talking about, is that they're not
really well.
I mean, these aren't purely intellectual arguments that are being made. I mean, a lot of the time they're not on that plane at all. They are emotional appeals, or they are statements that appear in the form of, this is a statement of fact, that happen to back up a belief that is emotionally important to the person. And, you know, I mean, so this is one of the things that I have a lot of, I mean, I have these conversations all the time, including with Christian nationalists, not just talking about, you know, Christians generally, but like, you know, when you're going into one of these conversations, what should you expect to do? And we have too many atheists and secularists out there who are expecting to be able to deconvert a Christian with a single conversation or a single conversation online, or to convince a Christian nationalist that they're wrong with a single conversation. That is never going to happen. Going into those conversations, your expectations should be two things. You should strive to be an active listener, so that you can keep an open line of communication with that person, right? Mm-hmm. So that when they have questions in the future, they can come back and ask you about them. So strive to be a good, active listener. And then the second thing is that your expectation should not be to change their mind about anything. At most, you are getting them, you should be trying to get them to question their own beliefs, to give them a little bit of cognitive dissonance. You are never going to change their mind. They have to change their own mind. And I mean, this is psychology, this is neuroscience. Like, the more you debate, the more they are going to be entrenched. That's why you listen and you ask questions. You get them to change their own mind. I mean, this is what Anthony Magnabosco talks about with street epistemology, right? It's kind of the same thing. And so temper every expectation you have going into one of these conversations with those two things: active listening and what are you trying to do. You just plant that seed of doubt and let them come back to you later on. They have to change their own mind.
Yeah, it's as like you're talking about experiential evidence. As a Christian, you're conditioned to believe that your experiences are very concrete, solid evidence to back up your claims. Like, that's what you're taught to believe. You have this experience, the Holy Spirit filled you, he gave you this vision, he said this to your subconscious, you're taught to believe that has absolute intrinsic value. And then as a skeptic or atheist, secular humanist, whatever, you're taught that your experiences are bullshit. They don't mean jack shit. They don't. So that's where a lot of the disconnect comes, is you have these Christians who are like, I have all these experiences. God revealed himself to me. He took care of me at a time where I was at my lowest point. And now you're going to tell me that that's all bullshit? Like, well, yeah. But the good part of that is and this is what I came to realize, what helped me cross that chasm, is realizing that there was never a God there in the first place. It's been me this whole time. I thought it was a divine, celestial, almighty creator helping me through my darkest times in my life, but turns out it was just fucking me the whole time. I did it by myself. And that's what people need to realize, is you have more power than you realize. You're capable of more than you realize you are. You don't need the help of some cosmic sky deity. You can do this shit all by yourself. And
how fucking cool is that, though? Like when you finally get that and you grasp it and you're like, oh, I was alone. But then you're like, no, the fuck, I was alone. I did this. Yeah. Like, that's just such an empowering thing to think about. I don't know. I'm sorry. It just, my philosophy professor would be like, we need to take a day to just absorb that.
It's true.
That concept.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much there.
No.
But
we have a super chat.
Disconnect, I feel. There are some who genuinely have questions that they want answers to. They're afraid to ask them. And there's some people who are just like, I have this experience. I don't care what you say about the Bible. I'm going to believe this because I had this experience this one time. So, yeah. You can try as you may to argue against that, but chances are slim to shit that you're going to be successful.
We do have a super chat from Courageous.
Oh, do we? I missed it.
Yep. It is, what do you think about the electoral college? A lot of people who think it should be abolished or revised. Realistic solutions? Question mark.
Yeah. I assume this is I have opinions on this. It's a hot steaming pile of garbage that was the result of a terrible compromise that should have never been made in the first place.
Not, no.
So the bad news about the Electoral College is that it is part of the Constitution, and our Constitution is pretty much the hardest in the world to amend. So the Electoral College is not going anywhere. But, and this ties back to what we were talking about earlier, kind of with international treaties, there is an interstate compact, which is basically a treaty between the states called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. And that is a very realistic solution that is well on its way to being implemented. When I last looked, we're about, so let me explain it first, because I almost just jumped the gun there. Basically, so this is states are signing on to this compact and agreeing to allocate all of their electoral college votes to the winner of the national popular vote. Okay? So it doesn't matter all that matters is who won the national popular vote. And then those states are allocating their electoral college votes to that state. So all you need to do is get enough states to sign on to this so that you reach the 270 electoral college votes required. And when I last look, I think we were just shy of 200. Don't quote me on this. You can all go Google. You're all sitting in front of your computers. Go Google it now. And it's pending in a number of other states too. I think we're really close with the pending states to going over the limit. But I haven't looked, and I don't remember pending.
That's exciting.
How. So there is a possible solution for this. So if you care about that, that is what you should be. That's a good way to be spending your time advocating. The caveat that I will add to the end of that is that our Supreme Court is also a hot steaming pile of garbage.
Accurate.
Seats were stolen. It has been packed. I mean, you don't delay and pack and put your own people on there because you like them or because you think they're impartial jurists. You do it because you want people who will guarantee certain outcomes.
God, that was so much bullshit.
I mean, all of it was specifically
it was
political.
Hard to watch and live through.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it was. No, I mean, it was. This is what my next book is about. Anyway, the Supreme Court might have a say. Will have a say on this interstate compact. It is constitutional and it shouldn't be a problem, but that's not stopped the Supreme Court in the past, including just a couple days ago when it came to COVID and OSHA being able to pass requirements to test or vax. So anyway.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
All right, no super chat. You're a cradle atheist. How were you taught about religion? What were your thoughts about it growing up? Thoughts first time reading the Bible?
Oh gosh. Yes, I was. I mean, I was not raised in religion at all. My mom really encouraged me to go. I remember going to temple with my Jewish friends. I went to my buddy Jeff Goldsmith's bar mitzvah and apparently came home and said that I wanted to convert to Judaism because it was the best party that I'd ever been to.
Yes.
I went to mass with my Catholic friends.
Hell yeah.
I mean, it's so I explored early on. I went to what was that thing? Young Life a couple times. Not for me.
That sounds familiar.
They took it's like I think it's the Methodist like youth fellowship. They took me to one of their like cabin camping trip, like Camp David. No, not Camp David.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Yep.
And I was like, whoa, y'all got like real religious real fast. This is not for me.
It's like so chill. And then like when you get alone, they're like, okay, so let's talk about God.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. And I was like, no, like,
yeah, that sounds about right.
I'm like, I'm gonna go watch Austin Powers in the common room for a while. Anyways, I mean, it became very obvious to me very early on that these mutual claims to holding absolute truth on the basis of faith alone were all false. So I never really believed in any of it, which is one of the reasons that I am so in awe of people who are taught to believe this and are able to extricate themselves through sheer force of intellectual honesty and curiosity. I really just am in awe of people who can do that. And I always want to say, like I do like to think that I would be able to do the same, but I am not at all confident that I would have been able to do the same. And I think that anybody that is who was raised non-believing and thinks they never would have believed it if they had been raised in it doesn't really understand the power of religion or the journey that people who have deconstructed have taken, and would tell you to check yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Check before you wreck yourself.
Yes, indeed. So I mean thoughts. That was kind of my thoughts growing up. My in terms of the first time reading the Bible, like it was always to me just kind of like another children's story. I loved the story of David and Goliath. Like, who doesn't? I mean, that's basically my career, right? Like how can you not like that story?
It explains a lot about where you went in your life.
Yeah, but I mean, and you read these stories, and it's like, and I had a children's Bible, and there are a lot of good human stories in the Bible, and if you take them as that, and I don't mean good in the sense that they're morally good in the sense that they're interesting and captivating stories, along with a lot of terrible, just awful gobbledygook. Like, let's put the blueprint of a temple into prose and see how that works out. Like, that's just no, thank you. Anyway, I mean, I love the story of the woman taken in adultery, right? Like, I mean, this is just, it's a fantastic story. You've got this woman, the dude who she committed adultery with is nowhere to behold. So
yeah, who cares about him?
Whatever. Just being, harangued by this group of just old men, and I always pictured when I read it, like the people at the DMV who they've got this little bit of power and they're going to fucking use it. And Jesus is coming in and standing between this woman and he's writing in the sand, and what's he writing? It's a mystery. And like, is he writing down like a little bit of blackmail? Maybe, who knows? And it's got like really great lines. Like those, I mean, really some fantastic lines. And then, of course, the best part is that it's not original to the Bible.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, there's
edition.
so there's
Probably
nothing
second
just not
century
to
edition.
love about that story. And I can appreciate the parts of the Bible. I mean, overall, I think it's not a very good or interesting book, but there are a few parts that are really intriguing. And then, of course, the King James version we owe a debt of language to. You know, I mean, I don't think it holds a candle to Shakespeare. Yeah. So I mean, that was my kind of thoughts reading the Bible. I don't remember reading it for the first time. I do remember thinking there was a lot of death in it.
Yeah,
but there was at that time in the world. So anyway,
yeah, it was interesting for me. I grew up. Didn't grow up religious, but grew up where religion was kind of normal. Like I visited my grandma in another city every other weekend, and she took me to church, and I learned the basics there growing up. But I never really considered myself Christian. But I learned all the basic stories, and right off the bat, like I was already a nerd growing up, and like I knew the creation narrative was not literal. I was like, oh, the Earth was created in 6 days. I know that's not true because I was a nerd about science when I was little. So I knew immediately like that was allegorical. And then when I got into high school, I got invited to a youth group, and I was like, yeah, I've been to church before. Sure, let's go see what it was. Completely different from anything I'd ever experienced. I was an awkward teenager, starved for social acceptance, and I get there, and there's these crazy other teenagers like me who are super excited that I'm there, and there's fog machines and strobe lights and a live band and a snack bar. I'm like, oh shit, this is church. What the fuck? So I got really into it, and so I was hooked. I kept going. So yeah, it was more or less out of the starvation for social acceptance.
I mean, and like, but think about that. That just goes to what we've been talking about, right, for the last half hour almost, right? Like what you weren't convinced by the philosophical or logical arguments. Like you were drawn in with emotion.
Yep.
Like, and if we expect to make any headway on this, like we've got to really consider that and think about how to deal with that.
Sorry, I'm reading the comments right now. I don't want to bring it up.
Oh, the Ken Ham and
we you know what, you and I could just do an episode to get.
Maybe we'll do another episode of that.
About Ken Ham.
Oh, so
there's some
back in
erotic
March,
fiction.
was it April? March?
Yeah.
I don't know. I brought up a horribly written fanfic, and I was giggling about it, and I was a little tipsy, and for some reason it got brought up even more, and we were like, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna read it. And we read it live on air, and it was fun.
You didn't even say what it was. It was an erotic, not really erotic. It was a fan fiction of Sonic the Hedgehog goes back in time and stops World War II.
Yeah, by killing Hitler and telling
and
his spoiler alert, telling his ancestor Anne Frank that she wasn't.
He
cool
meets
enough.
Anne Frank, and she gives him the power to turn into a dragon or something. It's written by like a 12-year-old, and it's the greatest fucking work of literature known to mankind.
Okay, I thought you were. Yeah, I'm breathing a little sigh of relief. I thought you were saying you read the Ken Ham erotic fiction.
No,
we did not read that. We're suggesting maybe we should read it later.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to.
I see.
I don't know if I can do that. I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know. It depends how graphic it is.
Yeah, we might have to. Well, see, but that makes it less fun. Is like if it's too graphic, then we can't do it. If it's just a little graphic and it's just like dumb shit.
I mean, from my brief understanding of it is that there are animatronic dinosaurs, as there are at the Ark Park.
What?
There's an angel. I think my character is like the angel.
I
don't know.
This is so amazing.
Wouldn't you be the devil though?
No, I mean, I don't know who wrote it, but I think it's somebody on our side, given that it's erotic fiction about Ken Ham.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
no,
it's called. I mean, are you?
I
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking that. I thought you were talking about Ken Ham and the Seidel Man, which is that.
No, I am. I just
Okay,
like
okay.
I just didn't think,
yeah,
like, I mean,
yeah.
I guess it is your
Yeah, I don't really remember. I mean, there were parts read out loud at
Wait, you have to spend $3 to get it?
several
What is
events
this
that I've been
nonsense?
to.
I'd have to get quite drunk just to Google it.
To even consider it. I'd have
I
to-
mean, listen. Look, Justin Beavers is no Shakespeare, but let's all agree he's still better than most of the Bible. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
That's fair.
No,
That's
I don't know.
That's a fair point. I
Never.
accept this.
Never fully read it. Don't know.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, we got about 30 minutes left. So if anyone has any questions, feel free
Yeah.
to send them in the comments. Also, Jim says, yeah, Andrew, you're a Lord of the Rings fan.
I
Oh, so I did bring up the right books.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so yeah, I was rocking Narsil in one of my TikToks. So
I haven't told Jim about my find over Christmas either, so he doesn't even know, which I
well, I mean, you feel free to share with everybody.
Okay.
I think it's
So
amazing.
I was at a thrift
Show and
shop.
tell.
Yeah, I was at a thrift shop after Christmas sometime in Iowa. And it's kind of funny because it's like one of those hospice thrift shops. So it's a bunch of like old people have died and this is all their stuff. So somebody just like put this book out there, or put this little set of books out there, and had no idea how much it was worth. And so I ended up with LOTR, like the second edition, in fairly decent, like, hold on.
Yeah, I don't know why she didn't have it like at the ready.
So in really decent condition. It's the
Yeah.
second edition. But I mean, there is some like weathering on the bottom, but it has the book and everything, or it has the binding and everything, and it's amazing. But like, I don't know, when you open it, you can tell it hasn't really been read a whole lot. Like maybe once. I don't know. There's a sales receipt, but there's no date on it of like when it was initially bought. Makes me kind of sad. But
Hang on to that.
anyway, so I'm really happy I got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so let's talk about LOTR.
Well, yeah. So the commenter is referring to I have a Narsil pin that I put on my suit jacket from time to time. Which was actually that was gifted to me by Seth Andrews because I saw it on my my sister is a big LOTR nerd as well.
We need to get him on the show next, by the way.
I'm happy to introduce you.
Done.
So my sister sent it to me and says this is the coolest thing ever, but it's like real silver, so it's not just like a cheap thing you buy. It was like $80 or something like that.
Wow.
And I would like longingly threw it up on Twitter and was like, oh my gosh, I want this, but I can't justify spending it. And then Seth Andrews bought it and sent it to me. And like, I didn't know it was coming. And so I got it. And I'm like,
A blessing from
Seth,
Seth Andrews.
Wow, what a guy.
But it's really funny too, because, so for people who don't know, it's a sword that's like broken off, like the blade's like broken off. So if you wear it, it actually looks very much like a cross. And so I was doing some FFRF media, our show called Ask an Atheist, and I was live on YouTube, and people are like asking questions. They're like, is there like something Andrew needs to tell us? Like, why is he wearing a cross? And I had to do this
It's
like
the
whole
unspoken
disclaimer.
elephant in the room.
Yeah, I'm
What
like,
is happening?
No. I'm just a nerd.
I'm just a nerd. It's fine. It's okay. Yeah, that's what I say. That's what I say all the time. It's like, it's okay. I'm just nerding out. It's fine.
Yeah.
I could not handle the reforging scene because I do blacksmithing and bladesmithing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so how is it inaccurate? Knowing that it's like an elven blade, like, I mean,
There's a knife I made.
yeah.
Looks like a razor. I think it's cool.
So it's just putting the pieces together. That's not how it works. You can't just. It's not a puzzle. You have to smelt all the metal and
Yeah, you
then
can't just,
make
like,
a brand new billet and hammer it out to where it's long. Like you have to start all over.
to be
Counterpoint.
Just
Counterpoint.
glue them together.
Elven magic.
But to be fair, when they wrote about it in the books, they talk about how it was like recast. It wasn't just like placed
It
together.
wasn't?
It was
Okay.
recast.
So that is
If it's
this
recast,
is-
that's fine. But the way
Yeah.
the movies predicted it or depicted it was not that.
Well, that's the movies. That's different.
So
And
it's
I was like,
artistic.
no,
a
that's
little
not
bit of
how that
artistic
works.
license. A little bit of artistic
Little bit.
license. Peter Jackson there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Uh,
Dude, it's magical. The elves did it.
So yeah,
German-
Crea brought up a good point. You're also
Yeah.
a
take the
photographer,
photos behind you?
photography enthusiast.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Those are beautiful.
So this one is a calla lily,
Hallelujah, yeah.
and that is at Versailles. That's at Marie Antoinette has she built like a little replica of a Normandy village, kind of in the back corner of Versailles, thatched roofs and all that. And I took that one there.
Oh, cool.
And then wait, this way.
Are
These
those
guys.
Are
Go
those
ahead.
the white sands of New Mexico, or are
Yep.
they the sands of Colorado?
Nope, these are white sands in New Mexico. So
Okay.
the Great Sand Dunes in Colorado are significantly bigger, but they're also brown. They're regular
That's-
sand color. These are like baby powder. It's amazing.
Aw.
That
It's
one
one
is
of those places I haven't been yet that I need to go. So.
yeah, especially as a geologist. So yeah,
Well,
and so these two.
Yeah.
Wait, I can't. I don't know. These two have they've won awards. Some landscape contests I've entered.
Oh,
Yeah, this
cool.
is me. So these two were shot on slide film way back in the day, like in
Oh, cool.
2003. So
Even better.
yeah.
I took photography in high school, and we had to do the whole we had a dark room and had to learn how to mix the chemicals and
That's so fun.
hang them up on the clothespins. We
Yeah.
had to do all that shit. It is a lost art.
It is.
No.
I loved it. I was between when I graduated Tulane in undergrad, and when I went back for law school, I was a Grand Canyon tour guide. And I was doing a ton of photography when I was out there. And I was I kind of was really considering making that my career. I kind of wanted to. It's a very difficult career to break into, like being a nature photographer. Like there's, and actually with the advent of I was kind of right at the beginning of digital,
Oh yeah.
explosion. So this was 2005. Yeah. It probably wouldn't. I'm glad I didn't go that direction. Anyway. Yeah. Have you been to the Grand Canyon, Nat?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of the so most of my family are afraid of heights, and I absolutely have no issue with heights whatsoever. So I've when I went with Johnny this past summer, I just walked to the edge because I know how canyons work. They're not necessarily entirely straight drops, like you have like little stair steps, but it doesn't look like it, right? So
Yeah.
I freaked him out because I had just broken my leg like 6 months prior, and he was nervous, so I fake tripped and I fell.
Yeah. I used to
And
do
then I,
that with my
popped
tour
back
groups. I used to do that with my tour groups. So I would end at Grandview Point, and there's this Park Service had built a little stone wall.
Yeah.
And it looks like when you're walking down to it, it's just sheer drop, and your mind thinks that, but there's
But it's not. It is little zigzags.
yeah, and there's 50 feet of stone. There's no way but I would go and I would jump on top of it, and I would welcome, and then I would do a fallback thing like this, and then
land, and you're this high.
yeah.
My dog freaked out too. She was unhappy with me when I did that. She ran to the edge, but she wouldn't go all the way to the edge, so she just started yelling. It wasn't barking, it was just ah!
Have you gotten to do the great unconformity? Have you been down at the bottom to do?
I haven't been to the bottom yet.
Uh-huh.
No, anytime I go, it's always in the summer, and I do not want to go to the bottom while it's in the summer.
Yeah,
So it's something I need to do terribly.
Yeah. That's as close to a spiritual experience that I've ever had.
It's pretty incredible. It's it's definitely a big awe. I feel the same way when I go up to the Cascade. Is it Cascade? What am I thinking of? The Cascade River openings towards Bend, Oregon, and that area where like so you go in and there's like multiple dams in front of each other like humans have made, but there's columnar joints all along it, and it looks like there's pyramids built into the mountains, which are really cool. And yeah, people are just like, oh yeah, so there's this ancient civilization that's back here. I'm like, nah, fuck that, that's geology. And you'll have like this random tower, just like it's all near Mount St. Helens and Mount Hood and everything. It's just really interesting geologically. But yeah, that's a religious experience for me, because I can like look at one volcano, and then if you're on the right side of the volcano, you can look over and see another volcano, and you're just like, I'm in my happy place.
Oh man.
Anyway,
I've been to the
also,
Hoover
did you
Dam.
hear about the? Oh, sorry. Did you hear about the Pacific, the Tonga explosion, the Tonga eruption?
I did, yeah, I heard about it, but
it's so
That's
cool.
pretty nice.
I heard more about the tsunami than the
Okay, yeah, no, the tsunami.
Not so cool, yeah.
Not so cool. Not so cool. I mean, still cool, but like not to the people part.
Yeah.
Like,
I love all the videos that are like, we can rebuild. After the little wave like washes over the shore, like, here comes the tsunami.
Right.
Yeah, that was cool shit.
I do like, there was a few TikToks of these guys that were like, yeah, so we got our warning, like it's going to be between like 3 to 5 feet of a tsunami. Like it's not huge. So like, you know, the water was pushed back, and they go out and they're like scoring the ground, like the beach where they're like, they can't normally walk. And everyone's freaking out. They're like, get on high ground, do this, do that. Like on TikTok, everyone's like commenting.
Very anticlimactic.
And he's like, ooh.
I'm gonna have to go look for those. I haven't seen them.
It's really funny. I enjoy them.
My feet has been fucking.
Oh no!
Holy shit!
Oh shit! That's a lot.
Most embarrassing moments and go. All right. Well, since you just gave me $50, I'll start. When I was when I was 11, 12, you know, approaching that age, I went to get my physical, and my doctor was a very old lady, Vietnamese. She had a very thick Vietnamese accent. And she, you know, I have to drop my drawers, and she checks me and everything, and she goes, can't believe I'm fucking sharing the story. You paid for it. So she goes to my mom, who's in the waiting room with a bunch of other people, and she goes, your son, he is starting to grow some hair down there. Yes, he is maturing. So if you want, we can give him free condoms. I'm not making this up. That's exactly what came out of her mouth. So yeah, I was 12 years old. Like, what the fuck is? Put me out of my misery. Take me out right now. I don't want to be in this planet anymore. Oh my god. My doctor just went and told my mom that I'm going through puberty and offered to give me free condoms in case, you know. Yeah, that's my embarrassing story. So who's next?
I can't think of one right now. I'm trying. Like I feel like I've already shared my embarrassing moments on this show already. But I gotta keep thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm an open book. I don't really. It's not a whole lot that embarrasses me. I don't know. I'm pretty out there about everything.
Same.
Like,
if I do something stupid, like I will tell the story of me doing something stupid.
I had that story loaded in the chamber.
I did have. This is like the closest thing I can come up with to like thinking is like I got a new crappy cell phone, like when they were first putting music on cell phones, like back when you still had the like Nokia brick things.
Oh yeah.
And it was like I was like, I want a phone that I can have music on, and it came preloaded with songs that you couldn't delete. I don't remember where I was flying to or from, but we landed, and I turned my phone back on, and you know, everybody stands up in the aisle, and somebody's just playing just terrible music. I don't even remember what it was. I'm just like, this is so bad. Like, why is somebody just playing music? And it turned out it was fucking me. And I was the asshole on the plane just playing music. And I could not get my phone out of my pocket, and I could not get it turned off. And I was like freaking out. And like with the people I'm with, I'm like, help me, you bastards. Like, they're just watching me suffer. And and it was a new phone, and it was like a new music phone. And I literally, you couldn't delete the songs off it. I could not figure out how to get it to stop. I ended up ripping the battery out of it.
Oh, wow.
And then, yeah. But I was like really rude to the people I was with, because they were just like, I was like, come on, you fuckers. Like, because I thought it was some other asshole. I was the asshole. That's the problem.
Oh, that's good.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Well, actually, I do have an embarrassing story that happened this past summer. I don't know if I've shared this yet. I was trying to think of it, and then I felt my hand and I felt my knot. So I had a new scar this summer. I'll just tell the story of this. So we were just north of Santa Fe on the mountaintop we're camping, and our campsite, like this German couple pulls up, and they're they just show up, and they're like within eyesight of our campsite. And there's like no one else around, and it was getting kind of cool. So we were going to start a fire, and it was their first time in the United States camping. So they were just like, what is the protocol? Like, it's like, are you allowed to do this? Are you allowed to do that? So it was like, we invite them over and we start building a fire and everything. And the only firewood that we could find was like used, just broken pieces of like structural wood that's already been. Anyway, so I was breaking up some of those, trying to make them smaller so I can get in. And I was just being a dork because we were drinking, because you do. And I put one down, and I go to karate chop it, and it's getting kind of dark. So I go to karate chop it, as one would, because for funsies. And I didn't realize that there was a nail sticking out of it. And I karate chopped straight down onto the head of the nail, and it went all the way into my hand.
Ouch.
And then afterwards, I pulled it. I was like, ow, that kind of hurt, and couldn't figure out why. So like I pulled it up, and the entire piece of wood came up with my hand. And I was like,
that's alarming. Yeah, that's alarming.
Anyway, so
Oof.
yeah, I was like, well, I'm a dumbass. Now they're like, oh yeah, the dumb American doesn't know look.
Well, thank you, Jesse, for making us all share that.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, so now I have a scar. Anyway.
So yeah, this is another thing that happened recently. Korea.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear about the Jewish folks who held hostage at a synagogue yesterday? The fact it wasn't all over the news shows how much anti-Semitism is prevalent in the U.S. Yeah, there was a lot of coverage about this on TikTok, but not on regular news sources.
I saw the headlines on Twitter.
Yeah,
but I didn't see much more than.
I didn't.
No, my understanding is just it was a hostage situation, and I don't even know how it ended. I mean, I know the terrorists, the hostage.
Supposedly the guy's dead. They haven't released a lot of details about it, but I guess the guy is the brother of a Muslim extremist who is imprisoned, and he held everyone hostage to try and get them released. And none of the hostages were harmed, and I guess the terrorist is dead now.
I mean, the anti-Semitism point is very well taken. I mean, it's,
yeah.
I mean, you think about like, I was texting with my editor at Religion Dispatches last night. I published an op-ed about the football coach case that I mentioned over on Religion Dispatches, and I used the example of forget about the football coach for a second and think about the Jewish kid who's on that team, who doesn't feel like he can be part of the team when they go to the 50-yard line and pray, or worse, feels conformed to go to the 50-yard line and pray. Like, that's one of the reasons we have separation of state and church.
Right.
Yeah. And when we got to talking just a little bit about this, and the thing that just strikes me is we've come just so far as a people in the last 2.5 millennia. But we've also just not. We've advanced so far and then just not at all. Like, we're still dealing with anti-Semitism, like in this day. That is just, it's crazy that is still something we are fighting against.
Yeah, no, there's, yeah. Yep.
It seems like a lot of times we've made no progress
Yeah.
as a society. Like we still have white supremacists being elected to governing officials.
Yeah.
How? Why? After everything we've done for the past how many centuries, this is still a thing. It's crazy, and that's a testament to the power of propaganda.
Absolutely.
These people know what the fuck they're doing. They know how to woo their audience. They know how to convince their audience what to think. Was it Virginia just got a new governor.
Youngkin.
The very first thing he did was sign a bunch of executive orders, the first of which I think was to ban critical race theory. Now, here's the thing. About a year ago, I'd never heard the term critical race theory, and I'm pretty sure that's the same for just about everybody else. So now all of a sudden we have a governor who's being touted as a hero for banning something that no one knew existed a year ago.
They still don't know what it is.
Yeah, they still don't. They've been interviewed and asked. They're like, I don't know. It's just the media told me to be mad at it and be scared of it because it's a boogeyman they have to come up with to distract you from what the fuck they're really doing. Like they know what they're doing. They have their audience pegged, and they don't even see it.
No.
Sorry, I'm done.
No. Yeah, I mean you're absolutely right. Also, talking about the very good to point out at this juncture the importance of every single fucking election and how your vote not only matters but is also just the beginning. This is something I've been trying to think about and talk with folks about a little bit more. Like, voting is literally the bare minimum that you must do.
Do you think there was someone that was like, do you think you should be fined if you don't vote?
Yeah, mandatory voting.
Or have a tax benefit for voting?
Yeah, so I've gone back and forth on this, and I've talked to for people who know Andrew Torres of the Opening Arguments podcast. He and I have chatted quite a bit about this. I'm actually in favor of mandatory voting with the caveat that people can do whatever they want on the ballot itself. So they could do a write-in. They could write, I do not wish to cast this vote. I protest doing it or something like that. But they at the very least have to, so that way they still have a First Amendment right to not vote if they want, but they actually have to go through the motions.
I think that there should be a tax benefit for those that vote. I honestly think that would be an incentive to get people to vote. I don't know.
I don't think it would be. I think it's got to be immediate if you're going to go the incentive route. You get a gift card to Target. There you go. I don't know. So something like that.
Suddenly, Target is owned by the government when we don't know why.
I don't know
what has happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I don't know. With modern technology, we should be able to vote online.
Yeah, I mean that's really the thing. Like they're really the solution is to just make it absolutely easier for everybody, which is exactly why one party is doing precisely the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the party that is trying to stop as many people as possible from voting is the party that's on the losing side of history.
Yeah,
like that's the party you should stay away from. That's the party that's trying to infringe on your rights. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna lie. I'm tired and I have to get up early tomorrow. We are coming to a close, I guess. Is there any last
we got 5 more minutes. What are you doing?
I'm gonna dip out.
Failing.
2 hours on the dot. I'm kidding. Feel free to dip out, Nat. I know you actually have a job. I don't. I just have to wake up and make my kids breakfast.
You don't think Andrew has a job?
I have tomorrow off.
I do.
I have tomorrow off.
Fuck it. It's a party.
I mean, I do get up at every single morning at 5 a.m. and I write. That's how I write books and things like that. But
do you really? Are you one of those? Hold on. Are you one of the ones that have like a really rigid morning routine that you stick to?
No, and I don't buy a lot of that for folks. I mean, I kind of, yes, in that. So my typical morning is wake up at 5, the coffee is set on a timer. So I stumble blindly out to the kitchen and pour myself a big mug, very similar to your horn of ale or whatever you got there. Rum. I know that. Why
is the rum gone?
Hey, I'm out of mead.
And then I come back to right here. I mean, this is where I wrote The Founding Myth. This is where I wrote the second book, American Crusade. Right now, I'm working on both American Crusade, the editing of that book with my publisher, and I'm editing this book, which is Religion and the Law. This is a case book. So this is like, I'm only holding it up because nerd is in the name of this show. And so this is for like law nerds, for law school students.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, that's what I do. I get up every morning, and that's the only time I have to kind of do my own personal writing. And, you know, it's obviously related to my work at FFRF, but it's not for FFRF. It's for myself. And so I do that until, depending on the day, 6:30, 7. And then I try to carve out at least 1 or 2 long days a month so that I'm writing till noon or 1 p.m. But otherwise I don't get to write. And that's what I live for. So yeah,
I could not imagine waking up at 5 to write. Like, I'm really, it's somewhat of like a guilty pleasure fascination thing of me is hearing about people's morning routines. I don't know what it is, but I really enjoy hearing how people get their day started, because I think I don't know, it's a way for me to live vicariously through them, because my mornings are fucking chaos.
Oh, well, I mean, mine's pretty similar. It's like wake up at 5, tea. Like I put a kettle on and I'll have tea, and then I will read a chapter of whatever book I'm on because
Nice.
I want to.
Yeah, nice.
And then I get dressed and I go get muddy. Unless I have to like go to like do some regulation stuff with like a cement pour or something. I have to like be on a construction site, and then sometimes they call me and they're like, "Hey, we need you at 3 a.m." It's like, great.
For me, I get up and I make my wife coffee and breakfast before she goes to work.
Nice.
And then I make my kids milk and chocolate milk, and then get them ready for school, get them off to school, take my 2 youngest to daycare because they don't have a bus. So I take them there, and then shortly thereafter, my 2 oldest ones get on the bus, and that's if school isn't closed down. Because,
yeah, I was gonna say,
because
pending pandemic.
Yeah, school
and
was
then do you
canceled
like
last week because of COVID.
Wow.
It keeps happening. It's a
and then do you
nightmare.
like hit up the blacksmith shop, or like what's
his garage? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, depends. I'll catch up on some.
It is. It's a black garage, which is pretty great.
It is. I painted black. Yeah, I
black.
make shit in my spare time.
Nice.
Sometimes I sell them. I take commission orders. I have. You ever played Skyrim?
No.
Okay, well.
Well, I'm going to show it to you anyway.
Damn.
Anyway,
It's
a sword.
Wait, so is that real? That's like metal then?
No, this is wood.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's still. I mean, that's
wood.
still impressive.
all one piece of
I
wood.
do a little woodworking in my.
This is
spare
all
time.
metal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do both. I made my desk. I made our table. I made half the furniture we have.
Nice.
Anyway, so that's what I do.
He's also a tattoo artist in his spare time. Not anymore.
Yeah, I'm not a tattoo. I do tattoos occasionally. When I was in the military, I'm still in the military. When I was active duty, I took up tattooing, and there was no shortage of fucking idiots who were willing to let me experiment on them. So I got lots of practice, and people got lots of free tattoos.
No, I'm in line to get one whenever I go to visit him. I'm getting a tattoo. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you one. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
So excited. I'm gonna have to do it like in a rather not so revealing place, so that other people can.
This was a scripture.
Like, oh, we did this.
And when I deconstructed, and I was like, I don't want a fucking scripture on my arm anymore, so I covered it up to make it look like claw marks.
Oh, nice.
It looks like the monster symbol. I freaking love it.
What was the scripture that you chose?
It was Galatians 4:13 4:12. As for me, may I not boast about anything but the cross of our Lord and Him crucified.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So I was like,
So
yeah,
deep,
fuck that.
deep
Let's get
shit.
rid of that.
Yeah.
That one's like that. You can't even like pretend like, oh no, that's just a quote from the
Damn,
book.
man.
It's like that is the Bible.
Figured tattoos are expensive, but it's like $300 for a kit to be able to do it yourself.
Nice.
And I'm an artist anyway, so I was like, fuck it. I'll wear
I was just going to say, so you're kind of like an artistic motherfucker.
He
Yeah.
is an artistic motherfucker. You know what?
Nice.
New T-shirt.
Yeah.
I like that. It's
New
like,
what?
I'm kind of an artistic motherfucker. Captain Deadpool.
Along with our mantis shrimp god t-shirt.
All hail Mantis Shrimp, the live Pokemon.
I've been contemplating the "We the People" tattoo that people get, but like it's a really like pretty right-wing thing these days, and like
It is.
and it's really that really bothers me because like I defend that shit for a living. I feel like of all the
Yeah.
people, like I you know,
You've earned it.
I kind of feel that way, but also I don't want to be, I don't want to be associated with like Pete Hegseth, the Fox News host, had it the other day. I noticed, and I'm like, no, I can't get it. So anyway,
Yeah, I have a t-shirt that has the American flag. It's a grunt style t-shirt if you're familiar with those.
Mhm.
It's popular among the military. And it's just a black and white American flag across the top. And it's when you're deployed, you have this American flag on your shoulder, but when you deploy, you switch to a black and white IR one or infrared one that can be detected by helicopters. So that's what it's symbolic of. But whenever I would make a video wearing that shirt, people would be like, that shirt is a white supremacist shirt. I'm like, fuck you, but go the fuck away. Just fucking virtual signaling in my comments again. Like, I hate it that shit's been like hijacked. Even like I have Mjolnir tattooed on the back of my hand. Like that's being hijacked by white supremacists too.
Well, I mean, this is one of the things that I really tried to do in the founding myth. And I apologize because I'm just gonna hop up on a soapbox here for a second.
Please do. By the way, Nat, if you gotta go.
I was gonna say I'm gonna dip out. I will watch this later. Andrew, it was so nice meeting you. We should chat more sometime.
Yes, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, thanks for coming. I'm gonna dip out, but I am glad you guys are gonna keep going. Kisses, mwah, mwah. Feel free to keep asking questions, and we appreciate you guys supporting the channel.
Yeah.
Right,
so good night.
Good night.
I mean, the soapbox that I want to hop up on is kind of what you're talking about right now, which is that the goal of Christian nationalism is to make it so that to be an American is to be a Christian, and to be a Christian is to be an American.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I try to do in the book is say we don't need just better facts; we need better arguments that are not just cerebral, but that strike at the very core of their attempt to rewrite our identity by rewriting our history, right? So that are not just factual, they're not just logical, they're also emotional arguments. We have to gut punch them back. And that's really what I try to do in the founding myth. And that's why I chose the subtitle, Why Christian Nationalism is Un-American, because not only is it fair to say that Judeo-Christian principles, whatever that phrase might mean,
that means. Mm-hmm.
Not only is it fair to say that they are un-American, we have to. And one thing I've noticed, and I knew this going into it, is that the word un-American makes a lot of people on our side of this squeamish, because there's this kind of inherent value judgment built into it. But really, look, America is in a fight for its values. And Christian nationalism is warping and torturing those values. It's dragging this country down a dark hole. And if we hesitate to describe with apt phrases that fact, simply because those phrases are unpleasant, we are ceding the American identity to an imposter. And so, and this is the flip side of what you're talking about, calling Christian nationalism un-American makes some people uncomfortable, but we have to remember that patriotism has no religion. Patriotism has no religion. And so if you're sitting there watching this and you're uncomfortable with that, you're uncomfortable with calling yourself an American or with the American flag, with the American, un-American labels, ask yourself this question. Is it because Christian nationalism is already so close to completing its mission? Is it because they've already done such a good job of redefining what it is to be an American, of corrupting patriotism and conflating it with nationalism and MAGA hats? Have they already done such a good job of corrupting what it should mean to be an American that I don't want to consider myself part of it? Because I think that's the case for a lot of people. And the argument that I make in the book is that the historically accurate claim that secularism is the true legacy of the American experiment, that claim is not the problem. It's the former. It's that Christian nationalism has been so successful. So, I mean, and this is one of my favorite quotes in all the world is from James Baldwin, who I would encourage everybody to go read everything he's ever written. He said, "I love America more than any other country in the world. And exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually." And so one of my goals in this book is to remind us who the true heirs of the American experiment are. That it's those of us who are skeptical, unorthodox, who believe that morality independent of religion can guide us, who believe that there is no freedom of religion without a government that is free from religion. We are the true heirs of the American experiment, not the Christian nationalists.
Oof, that's good.
I'll hop down now.
That needs to go on a business card.
Sorry, I get a little.
Jesus,
I don't know, man. I get a little.
I got
excited
goosebumps.
because,
Are you kidding?
Well, I appreciate that, but yeah. So I mean, I that's one of the things I really and I'll say as an author, as a writer, somebody trying to communicate that. One of my favorite compliments that the best compliment you can get as a writer, I think, is having people come up to you with your book all tabbed and dog-eared and underlined and highlighted. Like that to me is my favorite thing that I ever see.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
But having people come up to me and say, and this has happened quite a few times, reading your book was the first time that I ever felt like I was part of this country. I had variations on that theme said to me, I don't know, hundreds of times probably at this point. And that to me is one of the things that I'm most proud of, because it is getting at what we've been talking about a lot during this show, right? Like that is a deeper, more emotional argument that is really hard to make. And I feel like given those comments that I did make it successfully. So I'm personally kind of pretty proud of that fact.
Yeah, I'd say that's definitely a mood. I come from a long family history of military service, and I joined the Army as well when I was 22 as an infantryman. I spent a year in Iraq in 2009. Served my country, did all that stuff. Like, I'm proud of my service. I don't necessarily agree with the missions and the politics behind all of it, but I'm proud that I made the decision to go and stand up for my country, do what I thought was right at the time. And since then, I've gone other places, Macedonia, Philadelphia for the riots, DC after the January 6th things. Like I'm proud of my country and I'm proud that I'm American, but sometimes it feels like I'm not allowed to be. And that's not the point, is it?
No.
So yeah, I think a lot of I don't know if I want to say leftists or whatever however you want to call them, are doing a disservice to the overall message by completely demonizing the other side or anyone who loves their country and is proud to wear the American flag or something. Yeah, I don't even know if I'm articulating my point well enough.
No, I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, good. So yeah, I feel that I think your book definitely. I've read your book. I finished it not too long ago, and I was like, God damn it, yes, all of this 1,000 times, yes. Can we scream this from the mountaintops? Can I shove this in everybody's face and make them read it?
I appreciate that. I do.
Because
I mean, it was a labor of love. Like I said, it was a decade of having these arguments and honing these arguments and trying to give everybody the best that there is out there. That, you know, it's great to be able to cite the Treaty of Tripoli, and the language is fantastically on point, but you know, that doesn't land. It's not convincing. And I know because I've used it 300 or 400 times. And so, you know, I touch on that, you know, in the first couple pages of the book, but really pass it by. You know, same thing with the founding fathers. Like it is, to me, one of the most fascinating and interesting discussions you can have is, you know, what did the founding fathers personally believe? But we are already losing the argument by having the argument with the other side, because we are conceding that their personal religious beliefs matter to the question of whether or not the United States is a Christian nation, or was founded as a Christian nation, or was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. And it doesn't matter. What matters is whether they use those principles to build a nation. And they didn't. And we know they didn't, because we have the records, and they didn't cite the Bible. We have the Federalist Papers, and they didn't cite the Bible. We know that they were not looking to Christianity or Judeo-Christianity when they were building this country, when they were pulling principles out of the ether to craft a brand new nation. So,
they went out of their way to not know the Bible is seen.
It pissed people off at the time,
because they wanted to do that, but
yeah,
they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. All right. I feel like I could have a conversation with Andrew for 6 more hours, but
let's do it again sometime.
Oh, awesome! I'm glad you say that. I'd
Yeah.
love to.
Let's do it again sometime. I'm gonna try to figure out how to go live on TikTok with other people. I saw you can invite people, so I'm gonna, we'll do that sometime too. Maybe I'll have you on my show.
Oh, yeah,
that I don't have. All right.
If I ever catch it live, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
All right. Real quick, heads up. I am infamous for being very bad at ending shows. I don't know how to do it.
You just hit the end button.
It's I gotta say, like, bye everybody, like and subscribe. I'm fucking terrible at it.
Oh, here you go. You got to have a tagline. That's what you got to come up with your.
That's
tagline.
what I need. You know.
So my personal motto, and I've said this at a few. I don't have. Well, I guess I do now. But life is too good to waste on bad ideas.
That's a good one. I have one as well. I haven't really used it here, but I like to say, life is an experience, not an investment.
There you go. There you go. Remember. I'd remember at the beginning of that, and there you go. That's your ending.
Yeah. So we'll try that. Good night, everybody. And remember that life is an experience and not an investment.